If you think gelato is the ultimate Italian dessert, we've got a new one that'll blow gelato out of the ice cream parlors. It's called Semifreddo, and we've got one right here. Oh.
Oh. It's like fluffy, sliceable ice cream. It has got to be the best summer dessert. Today we're going to make one that's raspberry, balsamic vinegar, and we're going to do this step by step to show you how.
There are 3 components, and it seems like it's going to take a lot of work to get the 3 components down, but they're really quite easy steps. So although you think it's a lot, it's going to go pretty quickly. And you don't need any special equipment, just a hand mixer.
I'm really hungry.
Let's make it.
There are 3 components to a semifreddo. There's the whipped cream, which sounds like the best part, but after that, there's a cooked Swiss meringue that's fluffy and marshmallowy and incredible. And then there's a zabaione. We're going to mix all 3 of those together to make this incredible frozen dessert. So we're going to start with the whipped cream. So we're going to beat this cream in a chilled bowl with chilled beaters. It's really important that it's all chilled because we want to have the most soft, luscious cream imaginable. We don't want any heat breaking down the fat molecules.
Oh, that's beautiful.
It is. We want to make firm peaks without making butter. So they should be a little soft. They should come up and make nice,
it's beautiful.
gentle
It holds its
parts.
shape.
Once we get this whipped up, and put the bowl back in the fridge. As the whipped cream is chilling, we next need to line a loaf pan. I've got a standard 5x9 loaf pan here. It's a metal pan, which is actually easier to work with than a glass pan because I'm going to take this 12x20 sheet of plastic wrap. I'm going to make sure it goes the long way into the pan so I have ample overhang, about 4 inches or more on each side. And I'm going to press it into the pan. The reason the metal is easier than glass is because plastic wrap instantly sticks to glass. You can see that I'm smoothing it into the pan, but if there are wrinkles in the plastic wrap, don't worry. We've got a trick to take care of that. There's plenty of overhang so that it can fold over the pan once the semifreddo's in it.
The next part of our semifreddo is the zabaione. That's the sauce which will actually carry the flavor that we're going to do, in this case the raspberry. So it's going to start with raspberries. So we have some fresh raspberries in a fine mesh sieve. And I'm going to push them through with the back of the spoon because I want to get all the flavor in the puree without any of those seeds. And it will eventually all get through. Now, as we go, I'm going to want to be scraping the puree. You can see it's coming through. You want to scrape it off because we want to get all that flavor. So keep going until there's nothing left but seeds. Semifreddo is so rich and so smooth and luxurious, seeds will get in the way.
You're not being very gentle with those raspberries.
No, you want to really put some elbow grease in and scrape this against the metal of the sieve because I really want to get all that goodness out of there. Great. At this point, you can see there's pretty much just seeds and a little bit of puree. Not much more is going to come out. Just scraping it all off. Terrific. Now we're ready for the zabaione itself. We have a saucepan. This is a 4-quart saucepan, and we've put about 1.5 inches of water in there, and I brought it to a boil. So now I'm going to turn it down because I want that water just simmering. And that's what we're going to cook the egg yolks over. So we have some egg yolks, and we're going to add our sugar. And we're going to add our chambord, which is another wonderful raspberry flavoring. It's a raspberry liqueur.
The chambord gives the semifreddo even more raspberry flavor, but you could substitute creme de cassis or even raspberry syrup, right?
Sure, you could. So now we're going to put the egg yolks over the hot water, and notice that they're not touching the water. It's way down there, so it's just the steam cooking them. And we'll take the beater, and we're going to give these a little whir over the hot water. And it's important to scrape down the sides of the bowl with this silicone spatula so the eggs don't overcook at the edges and it gets luscious evenly throughout. So now it's been about 5 minutes, and as you could see, it's thick, it's almost doubled in volume, and when we pour this down, we get these lovely ribbons that happen right there in the mixture. Then we know it's done. So now it's time to add even more raspberry flavor to this. We added the chambord.
Yep.
Now we're going to add the raspberry puree. So we're just going to put that in. You can flavor your semifreddo at this point almost any way you like, just varying what you put into the zabaione. So just fold that in. Look at that. And it makes it a nice pink. And this is a great dessert on its own on top of everything. But when we mix it with the other two components, it becomes heaven. So now that raspberry is completely mixed into this zabayon, and we're going to set this aside and move on.
The last component of the semifreddo is a cooked meringue, a Swiss meringue. So now it's the turn of the egg whites.
Yep.
This is what's going to add all the volume and all the creamy lusciousness.
It gives it, yeah, this gives it a great, what we like to call mouthfeel.
It does give it a good mouthfeel. So I'm going to start with my egg whites in a bowl. I've got that water still simmering on the pot. I'm going to add egg whites. I'm going to add sugar. And now the two stabilizers I need, cream of tartar and salt.
Now these egg whites were at room temperature, just like the egg yolks. It's important to remember, cream was cold, the eggs are at room temperature.
Yep, that's it. Over it goes.
And then you get the mixer.
And I'm going to use my spatula repeatedly now because I really want to protect these egg whites from the heat.
It's really important to make sure those beaters are cleaned well after the egg yolks, because any fat left on them will keep the whites from beating up right.
You want to repeatedly scrape down this bowl over the heat so none of the whites burn or singe on it over that hot water. Once the egg whites are shiny and satiny and kind of like a 7-minute frosting, I'm going to turn off the heat, take them off this burner, and continue to beat them. You're beating them off the heat at this point so that the residual heat in the bowl itself will continue to build volume in the egg whites, and yet they can't be overcooked. If you don't have a third hand to hold the bowl, you can set the bowl down on a damp, clean kitchen towel and it'll keep it from spinning. Or honestly, you can just let it spin on the counter. It just adds more action to the whites. Oh,
look at that.
It's perfect.
So now we have all three components of our semifreddo ready to go. We have our zabayon, we have our whipped cream, and we have our Swiss meringue.
I don't know why you're waiting.
So the way we do this is first we're going to scrape this zabayon into the Swiss meringue. And I'm going to fold those together. Now, the important thing to remember as we do this is that we've beat a lot of air. We've beaten a lot of air into this. So I want to take long strokes and not overmix this because I want to keep all that luscious air so the semifreddo stays light and fluffy. But I want to make sure that all of it's well incorporated, right?
I think this is the point where I would be tempted to rush the recipe, but you don't want to rush this step, right?
It's going to take a while. See that white streak? It all go away. Okay, so once that's incorporated like that, we're going to take the whipped cream and fold that in as well. And again, this whipped cream has a lot of air into it, and so we're going to take long, slow strokes so that it all gets mixed in well.
While Bruce does that, I'm going to make the ribbony flavor that goes into the semifreddo that takes this thing over the top. I've got some raspberry jam, and I'm going to mix it with aged balsamic vinegar. This is thick, syrupy balsamic. It's big flavor, which we want to cut all that richness. I'm going to mix this together. If you can't find aged syrupy balsamic, double the amount stated in the recipe and then boil it down on the stove. Of regular balsamic. Of regular, thinner balsamic, and then boil it down on the stove.
And you end up with something really perfect. Look how rich and fluffy that is. So this is the stuff Mark just made. I'm going to dollop that along the top. Look at that. Just all around.
Yum.
And now, I don't want to mix this in completely, so just 1 or 2 strokes will do it. And this will be a beautiful ribbon when we unmold. So now we have this lined loaf pan, and we're going to turn this out into the loaf pan. Look at that. And those beautiful ribbons of that.
I want to tell you a secret to this recipe at this point. You should leave some in the pan because the eggs are cooked, and the cook always gets to lick the pan.
Now, we need an offset spatula, and we're going to smooth this out and spread it. Now, depending upon how much air you incorporated, it may actually overflow your pan a little. We did it perfectly here. It should fit a 9x5, but if you've got more air in, you just scrape it off the top. So, and now you take the excess plastic that we had, that gets folded over, flattened down, and this will go in the freezer for at least 6 hours. After at least 6 hours in the freezer, the semifreddo is frozen. But again, the word semifreddo, what does it mean?
It means half frozen.
Half frozen. So it's never going to be rock hard. It's always going to be kind of soft and luscious, even though it's still kind of frozen.
Exactly.
So we're going to unmold it on a plate. So we take the plastic back to expose the top, and we're going to turn this upside down on a plate. So take the plate and turn that upside down. And we can use the plastic. It probably won't come out right away. Oh, look at that.
Huh.
Came out right away. And then we peel off the plastic. Now, you did a pretty good job getting that plastic in smoothly, but there is a few little wrinkles, easy to fix. Offset spatula's been sitting in hot water, and if we just smooth it over those wrinkles, look at that, like frosting a cake, they're gone. Perfect.
All that's left is to slice it and eat it.
Okay.
I've been waiting.
So impatient.
We are. I'm going to make
Look at that.
fairly delicious, but not too thick slices of the semifreddo.
Oh, and look, you could see the little ribbon of balsamic in there.
Oh. Here we go.
Now again, look how easily this is slicing. Came right out of the freezer, but it's not rock hard. It's a beautiful semi-frozen consistency.
Oh my God.
Delicious.
It's
delicious.
so creamy and it's so rich.
It is. It's the combination of the cream, the zabayon, the meringue. It just makes a dessert that is so flavorful. And the sweetness of the raspberry, the sweetness of the chambord, but the little tart edge of the balsamic vinegar.
This dessert just screams
It does.
summer,
It does.
but I would like to see it at a winter holiday real soon too.
Well, you might get it because there's nothing like a good semifreddo.